And welcome back to Champion News Talk Radio, brought to you by championnews.net, where you can get all of your latest political news. And today we are talking with Steve Tucker, and Steve was telling us about a $2.5 billion bill, price tag for Illinois, because of Obamacare. Well, Steve, how much of that can Illinois afford? Aren't we already in massive debt?
Steve was saying that the price is going to go up some outlandish sum, and the services go down. Why is Obamacare bringing around that kind of a terrible result?
Most of your central planners, like the Obama administration, they believe that more government is the answer, and we know that's not the case. When they're massively enrolling people onto Medicaid, which is what's going to happen come 2014, there is a subsidy that is going to be allowed to people who make up to 140% above the federal poverty level. So if you work those numbers for a family of four, that's $90,000 a year. Well, they're going to be given a subsidy by the U.S. taxpayer of up to 50% of their health insurance premium. So there's a huge impetus for the employer to dump them off.
The price is going up then because the government is pumping money into it.
Yeah, well, that and
but with bureaucratic services, oh, I can see how that works.
Yeah.
Look at the DMV and the post office.
You know, people blame the cost of medical care for the high cost of health insurance, but the biggest impetus behind the high cost of health insurance is the government's involvement. In 1979, we had 279 mandates that were placed on health insurance carriers in the United States. After Obamacare passed, we are now at 2,100 mandates. So, for instance, in the state of Illinois, you have to pay for infertility. And the cost of infertility is one of the most expensive medical procedures. When the state mandates, in this case, the federal government mandates that you have to pay for infertility, then you're paying for things that are, number one, not medically necessary. Number two, they drive up the cost for everyone. And
but they're going to handle that by allowing more abortions by government funding.
Yeah, well, that'll
balance out the infertility success.
I got to jump in here and ask, how can the government force any company to provide specific services?
They can do it by passing it through legislation, which is what happened. You know, we know what happened on Christmas of 2009 or 2010. They just basically shoved the bill down our throats.
2009.
2009, correct. And then it was signed March 23rd, 2010.
And then we repudiated it November of 2010.
Yes. And of course, Nancy Pelosi said you have to pass the bill to find out what's in it. Okay. Well, now we're seeing things coming out. For instance, August 1st, those of us who are diametrically opposed to paying for morning after abortion pills, we now no longer have a choice. American citizens are now forced to pay for morning after abortion pills. So if you disagree with that on an ethics basic, you don't have a choice.
Well, that's to balance out the infertility thing.
Yeah, whatever their idea is the best thing that they think is going to work. It doesn't work, you know, and that's what's driving up the cost of health insurance for everybody. It's just going to get exponentially worse.
But it's going to the Supreme Court.
Correct. That's the interesting thing. We know that, or at least we hope and pray, that Kennedy will vote with the Constitution. There is nowhere in the Constitution, no matter what our friends on the left tell us, that states that you can impel someone to buy a product from a private citizen.
No, there's no provision for that.
Nothing whatsoever. So you cannot regulate inactivity, which is what they're trying to do. The president said it was a fine, not a tax, remember, before the law was passed. And then he knew he couldn't call it tax because then he would be attacked by people, oh, you're raising taxes. You promised not to raise taxes. Right. Well, now his lawyers are arguing that indeed it is a tax. But they're going to lose because there's nowhere in the Constitution that says that you can impel free citizens to buy health insurance. You can use the car insurance analogy. But car insurance is mandated by the state, not by the federal government, and it protects the other person.
But also, you have a choice to have a car or not.
That's exactly right.
You have a choice to have a car. So if you don't want to invest in car insurance, you don't have to have a car. So
that's correctly right.
Health insurance, you just are born into this country, and under Obamacare, it is something that you have to do because government says so.
It is a complete power grab and a complete usurpation of states' rights.
Now, how will that affect, if Obamacare is, as I believe it will be, as it should be found unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, we're looking at what, July of next year?
It'll hit there before June, that's what they're saying, May or June, which is going to be extremely detrimental to the president's reelection campaign, if indeed it is overturned. So that's the wonderful thing.
Yes,
is that
that's the good news.
It's going
Very
to
good
hurt
news.
very much his chances. I don't believe that Justice Kennedy will vote the wrong way. I believe he'll vote the right way. At least I hope and pray. Because it does come down to one man. One man will make this decision for the entire country.
Now, I guess my question is, what's the implication on Illinois if it does keep going on? You're saying this $2.5 billion in addition to our
Correct.
80 to what is it, Jack? $130 billion pension debt that Illinois has? What?
Oh, no, it's whatever you want to say, but just for the K-12 system, the minimum figure that's mentioned is 80 billion. It all depends upon the ratios of investments, of how much you get out of it. It would be probably more accurate to say 170 billion. Suffice it to say that the pension system is so far in the hole, there is no way that anybody's going to pay it. So it is headed for a crash. That courtesy of the IEA, the enemy of the Republic, Illinois Education Association, has managed to tap out the teachers who are paying into this thing, all the dues to the union, which has now completely bollocksed up the whole state, as a matter of fact, and screwed up all of their retirement system.
Well, there's a very good correlation
How do you
here.
like belonging to a union that turns out has had the wrong formula and has actually destroyed the benefit that they thought they were giving you? Isn't that a great thing? And you can't quit the union. You have no free will in the state of Illinois. You have to belong to the union or they must fire you.
Yeah.
That's the law of Illinois.
Now you can see where all that money's going thanks to Adam Andrzejewski. Now you can go to openthebooks.com and see all of those salaries, where all that money is going.
We've been doing that for 20 years at championnews.net.
Oh, you've been spearheading it for years. Yeah.
Family taxpayers.
20
you
years
could go to
we've had all of that
championnews.com
up.
and get all the teacher
And the other
salaries.
reference on it is Bill Zettler. You can find both in the Family Taxpayer Foundation. That is one of it's our 501c3 that's been doing it this long. Or you can find it in championnews.net. Are a lot of these articles by Zettler. Zettler has a talent. He knows how to mine all this vast amount of data and make it interesting. He can give you the significance of it without being boring.
I just recently read an article by him. There are over 1,000 teachers in Illinois that are making six figures. Now, what I see is a perfect storm because Chicago's always looked to Illinois to bail them out, but Illinois is broke. Illinois has always looked to Washington to bail them out, but Washington's broke, and we've got Republicans holding the purse strings. There's a perfect storm being created right here, and when Obamacare really hits, it's going to be devastating.
Well, our financial reckoning day is clearly coming, but I do see a huge correlation here between the financial abuse in Illinois because of big government bureaucracy and now Obamacare. And
let's narrow it down to a real good example. The pension thing runs through the police and firemen and government employees and all of that. But let's just stick with the big, ugly one, and that's the IEA. And it's the K-12 system. And why is it ugly? Because it's huge, and it's got a long history. It was in 1998 when the deficit got so huge, it became impossible to handle this rapid growing cancer in the education system of the pensions and the outlandish pay. So they transferred the responsibility for paying it to the state.
To the taxpayers.
The union has so much power, they were able to do that. So they took the cork out of the whiskey bottle right there, and everybody had a big swig of, isn't this nice? And they cranked up their salaries and pensions and proceeded to bankrupt the state. So the principal really big overarching debt is in the pensions and largely for the K-12 system.
Which is about 60% of property tax.
And yes, the other part of education, and that's not the pension. The pension's been passed up, but the other massively mismanaged education locally is 60% of your home tax bill, and 80% of that is salaries at the local level. The salaries separated from the huge amount in the pensions. Only a bureaucracy run by a nasty union could run this thing so far into the hole.
Well, there are some things that I know Steve Tucker would like to tell us about Obamacare and unions when we come back after the break.